Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to our holiday edition of What's New in OTel. I'm Reese. I am a Senior Developer Relations Engineer at New Relic, and I am joined by my lovely co-host.
Hello, my name is Adriana, and I'm a Principal Developer Advocate at Dynatrace. And Reese and I are both two of the three maintainers of the OTel and User SIG. And we have a special guest cat, too.
We'll see how long he stays on here. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm coming to you live from Vancouver, Washington. Well, okay, so I'm going to say Portland, Oregon, because I always forget that people will think Vancouver, BC, and then I have to disappoint them. So I'm coming to you live from Portland, Oregon. And if you are tuning in and want to share where you are tuning in live from, that would be really fun for us to know.
Yes,
Adriana,
absolutely.
You in live from Toronto.
I am live from Toronto, Canada, where we are. We still have snow on the ground. We had a deep freeze, and the temperatures are finally above freezing. So some of the snow is melting, which we might not have a white Christmas as a result. Damn it.
Oh, interesting. It's been really warm, unseasonably warm here, which is a little bit worrying. But anyways, we've got an exciting episode for you, jam-packed for you today. We do have a last-minute change. Our second guest, Kayla Reopelle, will be joining us at a future time. She is out for this episode, but we are going to chat a little bit longer with Austin Parker, who we will bring on in a moment. But in the meantime, we would love to hear from you. What type of feature would you like to get as a gift in 2026? So what type of OpenTelemetry feature would you like to see in 2026? We would love to see what kind of responses we're getting. And I think we are ready to bring Austin on.
Hey, Austin.
Would you look at that?
Oh, and we should talk about our holiday attire. Austin and I are like matching on Microsoft ugly holiday sweaters.
Yes.
I've got my flippy sweater here.
I've got the Bliss XP background.
With the cursor.
And we have
the cursor, yeah. And we got Santa hats. Yeah.
Yeah,
no, there's a cursor down here.
That's great.
It's surprisingly warm. Oh yeah, and you've got your danglies, your Christmas danglies.
Christmas wreath.
Earrings.
I love it. I love that you have like different earrings too.
Well, I just mismatched, but I do have a whole pair of the trees and a whole pair of the wreaths.
That's awesome.
Well, tis the season.
Tis the season.
For observability.
That's right.
Okay, so I think we're going to start with some rapid fire questions for Austin.
Yep.
All right, hit me.
Austin.
All right.
Okay, so don't overthink it. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, and then Adriana, if you want to alternate with me,
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Holiday drink, eggnog or hot cocoa?
Eggnog.
Favorite swag, best piece of OTel swag you own?
Oh God, the jerseys from KubeCon this year.
Damn it, I'm so jealous. I missed out on those.
I'm sorry.
I like the lab coats.
The lab coats are really good too. Those are really strong, but the jerseys I think they edge it out a little bit.
Yeah, they do look really sweet. Okay, if you look at a distributed trace of your holiday shopping, is the latency mostly in service decision making or service shipping?
Ooh, shipping.
If OTel had a mascot, what should it be?
Oh, an otter.
Ooh, I like it.
Its name will be Ollie.
Oh my God.
Ollie the otter, yeah. We also maybe so it's gonna be an otter or an ocelot. We have mock-ups of both.
Oh my God.
You get a Fippy character. So for people that don't know, if you are not familiar with Fippy and Friends, they set of characters that represent technologies in the cloud native landscape. So you have the giraffe, like there's Fippy. Fippy is the giraffe, I think, and I don't quite remember what Fippy is supposed to be. You've got Captain Cube, which is the owl, and you've got
like a or something.
There's like a book. There's coloring books. They have plushies of them at KubeCon.
Yes, I know.
This is all open. It's open source. If you want to make, if you would like to, they're Creative Commons, so you can go make your own Fippy adventures. But part of that, we have been brainstorming what would our Fippy be, and we've kind of settled on Otter or Ocelot.
Interesting.
Little detective hat.
Oh my god, I love that.
It's gonna be adorable.
Oh my god.
Adorable.
Yes, can we have plushies of those, please?
Yeah, no, that's the idea.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay. Wow, we derailed ourselves already. Okay, so.
Oh, totally.
That's what I'm here for.
80 moments.
If open source were a holiday, which one would it be?
What's a very slow and deliberative holiday? Probably a religious one, right?
Easter? I don't
know. Oh, it is a slow and deliberate holiday.
Huh. A slow and deliberate holiday.
I mean,
Lent? Is that a holiday?
Hanukkah? 12 nights?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. It goes on.
Yeah. I think OTel is definitely the Hanukkah of open source projects, because it's got something for everybody, and we remember, and part of it is remembering how bad things used to be. I don't quite know. I'm not Jewish.
Oh, I like that. That's a fun take.
Well, apologies in advance. All right, we're gonna. Oh wait, we're live. We're live.
Moving on. Which SIG would throw the best holiday party?
Which what?
Which SIG would throw the best holiday party?
That's a good one. End users, because you all are the ones with all the friends.
You gave the correct answer, Austin.
They read the room.
Little thing we
That's right.
Little thing we like to call diplomacy.
Well played, sir. Well played. Okay, next question. Desert Island Signal. You can keep one. You can only keep one. Traces, metrics, or logs.
Traces. Dance with who brought. You got to dance with who brought you, right?
That's right. Another very political answer.
I mean, that's the distributed tracing book cover right there. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, very nice. Okay, the gift of code. If you could wrap up one completed OTel feature and put it under the tree for the community right now, what would it be?
Stability.
Ooh, good one. Okay,
and also for those of you who are just tuning in, so sorry. If you want to share what is the one feature that you would like to see, as a gift for 2026, please let us know. It would be interesting to kind of find out what people are looking for to next year.
Useful feedback to the governance committee.
That's right. That's right. And also, as you're joining, please tell us where you're calling in from or joining in from.
Oh, that's right. Austin, actually, where are you
from? Snowy and cold upstate New York. So we will... I actually haven't looked at the weather. I don't know if we're going to... I assume the snow's going to stick around through next week. It depends on when the warm front gets here. Real user monitoring.
Nice one, Henrik.
2026? We'll see.
Yeah, I would love. That would be great. Depending on who you ask, we have it.
Okay, next question. What's the most common question you answer on CNCF Slack?
That's a good question. I think honestly, a lot of it is just really helping direct people, right? Like, there's one of the great things about open telemetry is that we do have such a very welcoming community, I think. But because of that, it can be really challenging. Sometimes find the right audience for your questions. So a lot of what I wind up doing, especially these days, is directing traffic, right, and saying like, oh, hey, I know who you need to talk to, and going and pointing them that way.
I agree. I think some of the most, even in the end user SIG, I think the most common questions we get are like, oh, I have a problem with X. And we're like, well, let us point you to the correct SIG for that.
Yeah. Ooh, someone wants op amp UI. Yeah, I'm actually
I'm here for it.
Yeah, actually super interested in that. Like, I would love. I know there's a lot of exploration around it, and there's a lot of implementations out there, but I would really love if we could pick something and kind of say, hey, this is sort of the official upstream distribution.
Yeah,
would be nice.
Okay, this one switches things a little bit. What is the number one thing you want from the OTel user base in the new year? So more feedback, more contributors, better dogs.
More feedback. I mean, I would love. I want. One of the things that's been really interesting to me, especially, am I supposed to answer these quickly? Can I answer them slowly too?
You know what? Sure.
All right. One of the things that's been really, really great over the past year, especially, I think, is last year it happened too, but this year it's kind of hit a tipping point. Is I've been spending more time sort of in different language communities in person as the world opens back up, and I've been going to more language conferences, more sort of gatherings of people that aren't OTel people, right? And I always ask like, well, hey, do you use OpenTelemetry? Have you heard of OpenTelemetry? And over the past like 2 years especially, it went from over the past 3 years even, it's like, what's OpenTelemetry, to, oh yeah, I've heard about it, but I don't we don't use it, to now most people are like, oh yeah, OTel, yeah, we use OTel, it works great, no problems. And that's fantastic. I mean, no problems is great. I love no problems. But also I would love for, like, I know that there's always more that people could want, right? There's always things that we can do better. There's always ways that we can improve as a project, and I would love for people to write more about how you're using OTel, right? Like, make videos if you would like, but like, just share more openly, and let us know what we can do better, because we can only really do what people tell us to do.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to add on to what you said, because for the OTel and user SIG, we are always looking for folks to tell their stories on OTel usage, for our OTel Me series, which, if you're not looking to dedicate a lot of time but still want to share what you're doing, this is a Q&A format, super, low effort. And then we have OTel in practice, in which you can share cool stuff that you're doing with OTel in your organization, cool discoveries. And I think we would love to hear more of those stories in 2026.
Yeah. And you can blog. We would love to have your blog about on the OTel site. Someone asked, gRPC OMO. What's OMO-TLP? Do you mean OTLP? Because I'm pretty sure gRPC export works for OTLP.
OMO-TLP.
Gotta Google that one.
Yes, if you can
clarify what you mean, I would be happy to give you an answer.
Absolutely.
And then I think we just have one more.
We had one more question, right?
Yeah, I got my holiday coffee here too, so I am now officially northeasterned out. I got my dunks.
Okay, what is your favorite OTel milestone from this year?
Ooh. I actually, this is kind of like not a weird answer, but I think this is it's maybe a small answer, but I think the thing that I'm really been most impressed with is like declarative config stabilization, because declarative config has been like a big part of, it's been in the background. It's been sort of a long term. I think we've been working on it for like 2 years now, I want to say. And it was mostly behind the scenes stuff. It was a small group of people that were kind of going through and evolving things and working with all these constraints. But what I think is really cool about it is it's an example of like the process working, right? Of like OTel is by necessity a very spec driven project. And I think that that's something that is really challenging for a lot of people. Like it's challenging for me as a maintainer and person, and person that's doing steering stuff, because here's a names withheld to protect the innocent type of story. But I've talked to very large organizations about issues they have with OTel, and someone's like, well, we really want to use open telemetry, but we can't use language X SDK because it's slow at our scale. And I'm kind of like, my brother in Christ, you make hundreds and hundreds of millions and millions of dollars a year. You have billions in funding. And I am sorry that the open source project that you are asking for, like extremely battle tested high performance code that's only existed for 5 years, does not have that highly performant battle tested code, considering that we write for sort of the 80th percentile case. Now, PRs are, as always, welcome. But like, I think that this is the flip side of it, right? Like I think it's something that is really challenging for us as a community to sort of figure out, like, okay, like what are the things, how can we like keep this sort of deliberative spec-driven approach? Because OTel is a project that is not for the next 5 years, it's the next 25 years. This is software that, if I am lucky, my child will one day curse me for being involved in. Right? But I think that I would like to think that's why a lot of us are doing this, right? Because we have seen the bad way. We have seen the pain and the suffering and the horrors of like, what happens if you don't have good observability? What happens if everything is just, cowboy mode all the time and you have to relearn the entire observability stack every place you go? Like, there's all of these things that are like really painful lessons that we collectively have experienced over the past, 30 years. And OTel is a solution for it. And it's not a solution for tomorrow. It's not necessarily a solution that is going to be fully formed and perfect tomorrow, but it's a solution that we want to be able to make sustainable for, certainly the rest of the time that I have to work. So yeah, I'm going to give some roses to declarative config, because I think that it's an example of like, yes, you can do big things in OTel that do take time and actually like ship stuff. And yeah, it doesn't happen. Like, it's a project that maybe if we were talking about some proprietary thing or some like half-assed, some sort of like open, source available type of deal where there's a single company controlling it. Yeah, you could have probably done that in 6 months. And it took us 2 years. But I think we built something with the idea that we're not going to have to rebuild it again in another 6 months. It's something that should hopefully stand the test of time. So yeah, that was a little real. And someone also, another like low-key thing that's been really cool this year is that our sampling sig has been doing a lot. And it's another like behind the scenes things. I mentioned this because Evan asked in the chat, like, expand a metric processor that takes into account sampling percentages. Like the sampling, the work the sampling sig has been doing in terms of formalizing sampling headers and probabilistic calculations, like, it's something that enables that work. It unlocks that work. And there's a lot of stuff in open telemetry right now that is probably not going to pay off. You're not going to necessarily see. You might not see it in 2026 even, but like we've been setting up sort of the next big chapter in a lot of ways. And I think once you start to see those investments pay off, then it's going to be really remarkable, and it's going to solve a lot of pain points that people have had. So.
To get back to one of the questions earlier that we had asked for clarification.
Yeah.
So
you should talk to the rsyslog people about that. That doesn't seem like a thing that I have any control over. Sounds cool. They should probably do it. We're also working on some really neat things around OTLP and around like more efficiency for OTLP with like OTLP Arrow Phase 2 has been happening this year. Again, it's been a really like foundational year in a lot of ways, in a way that I don't think is going to really pay off for a while. I think one of the other things that's been really interesting along those lines is like the continued work on OTel metrics. More organizations starting to adopt OTel metrics. We're starting now to see data stores that are optimized for OTel metrics, or at least understand OTLP metrics, and so are able to do some really cool things with that. So yeah, like it's, stuff's happening.
On that vein, like what's going on? Are you aware of what's going on in terms of like the Prometheus and OTel metrics interoperability work? Do you have your finger on the pulse of that by any chance?
I know it's still happening. Like I know Prometheus 3 did a lot to sort of like bridge the gap there, and I think we'll probably continue to see, further alignment. My understanding is, the plan from the Prometheus side is to sort of deprecate like node exporter and things like that, and move Prometheus to sort of use like OTel SDKs, I believe, in the future. My understanding. But this is one of those things that'll take a while. Prometheus is like super embedded in the cloud native ecosystem, and it's fine. It's great. Like it works well for what it does. And I think ultimately there are situations where sort of the Prometheus model of scraping and having state be managed by the server is good. There are cases where having the state be managed by the application is good. There's no one size fits all. And so I think we'll continue to see evolution of both the projects together, and in order to make something that is truly, better than what we had before.
So as someone who's manages a community and also sits on the governance committee, what is the loudest piece of feedback you're hearing from companies that are adopting OTel?
I think there's a few different things, and I think some of it is, I would say there's kind of like three buckets more or less. One is around something, is around sort of the pace of OTel. And it's not like, oh, the pace is too slow, it's too fast. It's what it is that because OpenTelemetry is very sort of federated, it's sort of a federation of smaller SIGs in a lot of ways, and every SIG can kind of pick their own release cadence, and everyone releases very quickly, and we're very responsive stuff, and that's all great. But what we kind of see in practice, especially at very large organizations that are trying to make strategic bets on OpenTelemetry, is that our pace of innovation and release frequency is a little out of step with how they prefer to work. I think anyone who's listening to this that has kind of done DevRel or field engineering around OTel, you'll go and you'll see people that are still running collector versions that are 20, 30, 40 releases out of date because security approved this particular version and nobody wants to go and do the security review required to update to a new one, especially when there's going to be another new one in a month, right? Yeah. So you get the same sort of thing with instrumentation, with SDKs. Like we're doing a lot. It's still a quickly evolving project, and so one of the things that we get definitely is like really challenging to kind of pick to have something of that release cadence that works for them. Another, it really comes down to sort of guarantees, and it's related to that. But if people are trying to roll this out over a very large organization, they need a little more interpretability of like what if someone over there, how do I make sure that as people are updating over here that they're not like inadvertently breaking something or changing something or breaking our dashboards as the telemetry change or whatever. Or I took a minor release or a patch release and something changed with instrumentation and now performance is worse, right? Like, it's not that that stuff happens often, but because of sort of, again, the widely federated nature of all the OTel components, it's possible for things like this to happen. And I think the third big thing is around documentation, but not just documentation in the sense of like, this is what you do, but like, this is why. This is like more in depth. Like we're good at saying like, oh, here's how you instrument some code, right? But people are kind of crying out for like more sort of architectural cookbooks, more this is I have this shaped system and I would like to get OTel for it. And people want more of a productized experience around open telemetry because that's what people have come to expect broadly from open source, especially large, complex open source like open telemetry and Kubernetes, right? And I think that's a pretty valid request. So these are kind of the three things that we're really thinking about, and we've started a conversation on this. If you go to the OpenTelemetry blog, there's a post we made before KubeCon about evolving the OpenTelemetry sort of stability stuff, and that links to a GitHub discussion that I need to actually go check. But we're gonna be introducing an OTEP probably. I'll probably have time to write it over the holidays. So we'll be introducing an OTEP, or maybe even several OTEPs to kind of point things and get things going in the right direction. And the goal really is to address those three topics, right? Give maintainers, a more, make it easier for maintainers to kind of say like, okay, this is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're not going to focus on. Make it easier for them to say like, this is what's in, this is what's out. Give them sort of, a project-wide cadence of, hey, this is, I think someone in chat mentioned like the idea of an LTS version, and I'm not quite sure we would want to do that. I think we would probably want to model after what Kubernetes is doing in terms of having, 3-4 releases a year and support, kind of goes on a sliding scale there. But and also things like versioning for telemetry outputs, right? Like right now, a lot of people have right now there's a interesting confluence of if you have say you have a database instrumentation library, the instrumentation code might not have changed in years. It might be perfectly stable, but that component would be marked unstable because it depends on unstable semantic conventions. So one thing that we would like to be able to say is like, hey, you can, giving maintainers more clarity on saying like, hey, you can stabilize these things just if the semconf changes a major version bump, right? Another other thing around this is, to that last point of people wanting a more productized experience, being able to kind of say, well, we would like to maybe pull some of these things. Like, I think a great example of this is collector contrib, where almost nobody, you're either building your own collector, which is what we would recommend, but, nobody's using just the base core collector image because it doesn't do much. It's not really worth it. Everyone's using contrib and they're pulling in like 20 billion things that maybe they don't need to because people want easy buttons. That's fair. Easy buttons are good. They make it easy. So something we would like to explore is like, can we maybe promote some stuff into core? Like, can we say, here is kind of the, I mean, I'm not saying this is going to specifically happen. This is what I'm thinking. I want to caveat this. But my thought is, can we say this is sort of like the core experience? These are the core workflows that we want to support and enable through our main collector distro. and ship the necessary components for that, even if they are components that maybe are not things that we directly control, right? Like we don't control Kafka, but a lot of people like using Kafka as a buffer for their telemetry. So maybe we should have a Kafka exporter and receiver as part of the Cortistro. A lot of people like to store data in S3 or S3 compatible or blob storage behind S3 compatible APIs. Well, we don't control the S3 API, but maybe we need to say, oh, here is a blob store exporter and receiver, right? That people can just people can expect, and then allow the ecosystem to kind of develop with these expectations in mind. Because right now it's challenging because there's so much choose your own adventure. So and a bunch of other things, but
and this one I am curious myself. How do you see? And I'm not, I'll caveat this with I'm not up to date on like what's happening in this particular intersection of OTel. How do you see AI impacting or being used in conjunction with OTel?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Let's scope it. When you say AI and OTel, what do you mean?
What do I mean? I've noted LLMs and
how about like
analysis?
I mean, because there's also like observability of LLMs. So then incorporating like OTel signals into LLMs, for example, or unless you had something else in mind.
Less so on like the monitoring side, and just more so curious about like, I guess, AI tools.
You can take this. You can take one of these and
CP inside.
Yeah, take one of these and like you wave it in front of a venture capitalist, and they'll give you $1 million.
That's funny.
Yeah, because I guess there's the other angle, right? Which is like, can you use LLMs to help sift through the
the amount of telemetry,
right? Yeah.
So I will. Here is broadly the way that I sort of conceptualize this stuff, because when people talk about AI observability or LM observability or all of these things, or AI with OTel, is there's at least 4 things that they're talking about, but we can kind of consolidate it a little bit into 2 buckets. And one of them is observability for either machine learning, like training machine learning models, fine-tuning machine learning models, and or applications, like observability for applications that have dependencies on LLMs. And then the other side of it is supporting analysis of telemetry or creating instrumentation using AI assistance. And so you kind of, it's a nice bucket because it gives you 2 things to talk about. So on the first side, on the sort of like open telemetry as a part of observability for either machine learning systems or applications that have AI features, I think OTel is actually like really good for this already. There's certainly more that we're wanting to do, but if you go and you look at like what people are using today for observability of either like ML systems or AI apps, a lot of that is built on tracing. A lot of it's built on OTel already. Like Anthropic, their SDK emits OTel stuff. Claude Code emits OTel stuff. If you look at the libraries for a lot of like open source things like MLflow, there's several proprietary AI, ML, what's too, but all of those are built on OTel, Gen AI semantic conventions as well. And I think that's something that will continue to progress over the course of the year. We'll get more about, how do you represent an agentic workflow? What are the semantics for these sort of AI interactions, and also maybe for more the lower level ML things. That the ML stuff looks a little bit more like a lot of metrics, a lot of logs. It's a lot more, hey, I'm going and I am training, I'm running a bunch of GPUs in a Kubernetes cluster, and I need to see all these metrics, and I need to graph the decay, the gradient descent, or whatever bullshit. I mean, that's kind of stuff that we already do pretty well. And I think for the LLM observability part, we also do pretty well, because ultimately, when you're talking about LLM observability or observing LLM-based applications, you're just talking about application observability. That's all it is. It's just that, and this is where things get different, is, we're all friends here. Like, if you think about what was revolutionary about New Relic years ago, it was that New Relic basically gave you this really easy answer of, what is an effective proxy that I can look at for customer experience? And it gave us things like AppDex, and it gave us things like APM, it popularized APM in a lot of ways. And we were able to say, more or less, that, hey, if my API is really slow, if the API between the browser and the checkout service is really slow, then people are probably not checking out, right? They're abandoning their shopping carts or whatever, right? So we could use application performance monitoring and sort of trace waterfalls and all this stuff as a proxy for user experience. And that doesn't make sense with AI or with LLM apps, right? If you have a chatbot, like, yes, how long does it take to get the first token back from your inference stack? Like, yeah, that does sort of make a difference. But you could have the fastest wrong answer in the world, and it wouldn't matter because it's still the wrong answer, right? You could have the AI could be very quick at deleting your production database, and you wouldn't care how fast it was because it deleted your production database. So what I think is great about OTel is that it already provides the foundation for really centering the discussion of LLM observability in what matters, which is, well, how do people feel about it? Like, using the fact that with OpenTelemetry we can say, like, oh, here's this long-lived trace or whatever of your agent workflow, and then at various points in that you're asking for feedback from the user, and when they push that feedback button, that's sending a log or that's sending some message to your backend that is also correlated with the trace. So you could see, you can analyze this data and be like, oh, someone had a bad experience here, and see like what was happening in the agent when they had that bad experience, see what the inputs were, see what the outputs were. And I think that's the only reasonable way to really understand, customer happiness for an LLM app, is to move away from thinking about, move away from like feeds and speeds and towards, oh, I'm actually getting feedback from the user about, like, is this working? Is it satisfying my needs or not? And having that kind of like ambient feedback loop in the application is also really interesting. I think Anthropic is doing great work in this area, by the way, if you want things to look at and model after. So the second part of it is sort of that analysis piece. And I think that's and sort of like writing instrumentation. And that's a little broader, but also it's not... It's one of those things I go back and forth on, because I think AI is great at that stuff. Like, AI, you feed your OTel data into an LLM and tell it to interpret it for you, and it does it. It does a pretty good job. Like, anything with semantic conventions, it just understands, like, that's in the training data. It's reinforced really well. If you have, a bunch of logs and you want the model to go and tell you what it means, like, you just give it the logs and say go. I think the hard part for us around thinking about this as a project is we don't really want to be in the business of analysis as a project. Like, that's kind of the deal, right? Like, we're not providing a database, we're not providing all this stuff. So I think there's certainly uses of, I think there's definitely ways that we can integrate with the AI ecosystem through things like specifications like Model Context Protocol, MCP, right? Like, I think we can probably say, hey, yeah, there's probably some version of a collector MCP that makes sense to help with configuration or whatever.
Right.
There's definitely, I think this is a big thing for docs. Making sure that all of our documentation is available in just Markdown that someone can copy and paste and send it to their coding agent, right? Like, there's stuff like that from like sort of the where do we overlap in that analysis line. I think more broadly, though, stepping back from OTel to sort of like general observability, like AI is absolutely changing the game. like, and it's going to.
Mhm.
We have not even. We are starting to kind of see it, I think, but we're nobody is really prepared for like how much AI changes how we think about telemetry analysis and observability broadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see. We are coming.
I just had a one quick question, because you did mention like possibly like an OTel collector MCP server.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any room for like other OTel MCP servers?
Maybe, like, I think
That
it
would
just.
make sense.
I think there's definitely. I think there's a couple. Like, I have a couple of questions about. Like, I think the thing with MCP is that to me, MCP makes a lot of sense in terms of auth. Like, that's the thing where MCP really makes sense. Is like, oh, I have this protected resource over here. I need a way to authenticate to it. Because ultimately, like, the real, the second big advantage of MCP is saying like, oh, here is a way for here's a way to control the presentation of data back to the LLM.
Yeah.
But quite helpfully, the best way to present data to an LLM is usually in ways that make sense to present it to a human, like markdown tables or whatever, right? So there's really no reason that you couldn't also just say like, oh, well, here, like if I type OTel call space config, that it just dumps its config, it just dumps its configuration docs to the command, to the terminal, right? Like, do we really need MCP for that? Versus there's other things, like I think there's like one thing we're starting to see in frontier lab stuff, like Claude Code, Anthropic and OpenAI are both doing this, is this idea of skills, which is a way to package up markdown and example code and all this stuff and say like, oh, well, here's a skill, and let the model determine if it uses a skill. So you could easily imagine sort of an OTel collector skill that has just all the documentation about like, hey, here's workflows and here's ways to use the collector to sort of accomplish stuff. So I think, again, things change every 6 months in AI right now. And so it's really hard to kind of say like, oh, this is the one thing that's going to work forever. And I think Henrik asked in chat, like, how do I see this working with the Agentic AI Foundation? Like, I think a lot of that's just going to be, hey, OTel is the way that you're going to observe your agents. Like, and we need to make sure that we are, hand in hand with the people, building these things at the frontier, and making sure that observability is sort of a day zero part of AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And actually, before we move on to the audience questions,
so many questions.
We're going to bring on our lovely co-host for the audience questions, Sophia Solomon. We are really excited to have her on, and super Southern fancy. Sophia, would you like to do a quick intro, and then we can get started on some of these questions we have?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. I'm a developer advocate at Elastic, and I live in Austin, Texas. This is why what is it? Ho ho howdy. Is
ho
that what we?
Ho ho, or either ho ho howdy or ho 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 y'all.
Ho ho ho
ho ho ho y'all. Yeah.
Representing.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, of course. Let's see. Austin. So I just are there any
actually, if you
in the chat, or but I have a couple too.
Some chat questions as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can chat where you are, but Henrik will put some up as well on the screen, and you can start with those ones.
Yeah, okay. Let's start. What are the challenges of 2026 that you see, Austin?
Scope unclear.
Scope unclear.
There's a lot of I don't know if you read the news lately, but boy, there's a lot of challenges. On the topic of open telemetry and observability specifically, I think the biggest challenges that we have are sort of the challenges that we've had for the past couple of years, which is How do we continue to nurture and grow this community in a sustainable way? How do we? I think actually one big one is that for a lot of people on the project, we've been doing this since 2018, more or less. And that's a while. Like that's 5-6 years, and there's definitely people that have come and gone, and the project is not at risk, but I think we're getting to the point where definitely we want to think about, like, okay, how do we make it safe for people to step back, and how do we help the project continue? How do we set ourselves up for the next 10 years, the next 15 years from a people standpoint? And so I don't think we're going to answer that in 2026, but I do think we're going to start making making movement in that direction. Because outside of that, I think things are going rather well in terms of the project. Like we have user growth continues to go up. We continue, we have new users and contributors every day. We're starting to see more and more integration of open. We're starting to really kind of see, I think, especially tracing go past the tipping point, and be adopted natively by many more things. There was a really interesting example of this where Cloudflare recently announced an integration with OpenTelemetry tracing for their Workers product. And Workers, if you're not familiar, is effectively serverless compute. And they have a thing now, and it's built on a custom JavaScript runtime that they create. And they've shipped a native OpenTelemetry tracing for Workers, which is really cool. So, that's not something they came to us and said, like, hey, we want to do this. It's something that they said. They looked at them. They looked at the market. They looked at the projects. They looked at, like, what do customers want from us, and they said, okay, we're going to do this. And I was talking to the lead engineer on this, and I was saying, and I kind of reached out and I was like, hey, great job shipping this. This is really cool. Do you want to come and talk to leadership about, the project leadership about it? And specifically, there's things that didn't work for you. He comes on and he's like, yeah, we were trying it, and pretty much everything worked. Like, he's like, we turned it on, and people just started using it. They just started sending OTLP from Cloudflare to their Grafanas or whatever, and it just worked transparently. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to come up with a billion integrations for all these different providers. It just kind of worked out of the box. And I think as a, to me, it's like, yes, this is the plan is working. Hooray.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I think more stuff like that, encouraging that kind of organic adoption of OTel is going to continue to be not a challenge, but something that we have to focus on as a project.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, 2026 sounds exciting, and okay. Yeah, Heinrich asked, is op-amp adoption growing across the OpenTelemetry SDK ecosystem? And should we design our instrumentation strategies expecting op-amp to become the standard way to manage SDK configuration dynamically?
Wow, Henrik.
A mouthful. Really.
Count on Henrik for the deep questions.
I mean, there's two questions here.
Right.
Is adoption growing? That it's definitely growing on sort of the collector side more so than the SDK side. We're starting to see more, especially startups in sort of the pipeline space, adopting, building products that are built on top of op-amp and da 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 da. So for the SDK though, we haven't seen as much, and I think a lot of that's because it's just not it's not something that's kind of risen up the oh, this is the most important thing, and it's a combination of reasons. One is that, as I said, as we kind of talked a little bit around earlier, is there's no pure OTel upstream management plane and control plane for OTel, right? And I think if we had that, it would probably change the dynamic of this a lot, and people would be more interested in it. And I do think that having that control plane is probably a precondition. Honestly, my 2 cents, going go build. Someone should go build it and make it into like a sandbox project, right? Like OpenTelemetry does not have to be the only people that do OpenTelemetry projects.
Good point.
That's true. That's true.
Anyone can.
Yeah,
Hey,
like
Henrik.
it's open source, right? Like,
Yeah.
but if I think it would be amazing for either a vendor or just like individuals that. Hi, Stella.
Hi.
You want to be on TV too? At least she
Kind
hasn't
of.
decided. Well, if you wait a minute, she might just come and put her butt in front of the camera, so we'll get demonetized. So yeah, like I think there's an opportunity for someone to kind of like to patch that hole, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be inside of OTel. It can be something that you work on outside of the project that supports the spec, right? So, yep. The same thing to the Henrik also asked about collector having control plane. Same thing, right? Like an op amp, a collector control plane is basically the op amp control plane. So, sort of the same problem. Space. We have Stella. Go. Shoot. Show.
We love all these extra code stories.
Daddy's on TV.
No, they're my
Daddy's
favorite.
Daddy's talking to the internet right now.
Okay, next question. So what's the most significant OTel development from this past year that you think some people might have missed?
Ow.
That's my question.
I've talked about declarative config. I've talked about a lot of things. I think OBI is actually, I don't know if people have missed it, but I think people are maybe sleeping on it a little bit because it is very cool. And OBI is OpenTelemetry eBPF instrumentation, and it's basically taking existing eBPF observability solutions from several different organizations and merging them together into one thing. And so it's not something I would necessarily say, like, I think it's really good. So as an example of like where this stuff is really useful, I was talking to a head SRE at like a pretty big company that been around for quite a while. And, you know, like any pretty big company, there are actually 12 different companies in a trench coat from like the technology side because they have acquisitions and all these sort of things, and, you know, and it's just like, oh, we have to manage all these things together, and right? And because of that, because everyone has their own stack and nobody really ever integrates them, they have like 20 different tools. And being able to come in and use something like OBI to say like, okay, we only have metrics and like right now we have metrics and logs, but we can drop in OBI, we can drop this into our Kubernetes clusters, and we can see sort of service to service communication. We can sort of see the service map with that automatically generated tracing is super valuable if you didn't have that before. So I think, you know, I think we as a project are really trying to meet people where they are on what is feasible for them to deploy. Because in some places, you know, obviously in most places, even I would say, you know, your best bet in terms of the most visibility is going to be like custom instrumentation, custom attributes, all this stuff. Like, you know about it, you've read it. You read the books, you read Charity Majors stuff, you read whoever stuff, and it's all like, you gotta have custom instrumentation, da 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 da. And what I think a lot of people hear when they read that is they hear, oh, I am not mature enough for OpenTelemetry because of this expectation. And I think that's what stuff like OBI helps to counter, because it even if you're not at that point where you can't feasibly do all the custom instrumentation, you can still use OTel. You can still use things like OBI to get value quickly and to get you better off than you were today. And that's where you start, right? You don't have to stop there. You can, of course, continue going, but you have to start somewhere. And I'm really happy that we're providing more opportunities for people to start, to meet people where they are with their current like constraints and needs and solve those. So yeah, OBI.
Yeah,
OBI, you heard it here, folks. It is. I am getting blasted with sunshine over here.
I'm
you should. Yeah, no, I'm in a basement. I literally block out the light.
Yeah, that's
overcast. It's been overcast
for weeks. It's overcast and cold. Jealous.
But anyways, it's about time to wrap up. Thank you so much to Austin and Sophia for being here. Before we wrap up, we do want to plug OTel Unplugged.
Yes.
This is yes. Whoever would like to speak.
Tell us, Austin.
Oh, sure.
OTel
Unplugged is we as the community are partnering with several of our favorite vendors to help support a community-run unconference series starting next year. We've actually done this once before, and it was great. It was super fun. And the first one is going to be at FOSDEM in Brussels. It's like the day after FOSDEM. So we would love if you are in Europe or you feel like getting on a plane to come to Brussels for a day, like me, then we would love for you to show up. It's going to be community-run, organized unconference. So birds of a feather sessions, get to meet other users, get to meet maintainers, people from the GC will be there.
You get to
be a lot of fun.
Topics you want to talk about.
Yeah, talk about what you want to talk about, and meet the experts. So if you're going to be at FOSDEM, or if it is easy for you to get to Brussels on February the 2nd, then we would love to see you out. Other upcoming events, there's Observability Day, a Open Observability Summit in the US, Minneapolis in May? May.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, there's a call for proposals if you want to come speak in the America. In more European news, there's obviously KubeCon in Amsterdam this spring is going to be amazing. We have Observability Day. The schedule for that should be announced pretty soon. I know the main track, I think it's already been announced. There's a couple of great observability talks in that as well. So we will have a ton of fun stuff there with Open Implemented Observatory coming back, and maybe some other fun OTel things. So
and more humans of OTel.
More podcasts, more videos. Maybe we'll I don't know. Maybe we'll do an OTel party or something. But we would love to see you there.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yay.
Happy holidays, everybody. And
thank you, Austin.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
So much, everybody, for being here. And if you want to get in touch with any of us, all of us can be found in CNCF's Slack instance.
Yes. And remember, for your friends who weren't able to make it to the live stream, these are available on demand on our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page. And stay tuned for more exciting events from the OTel End User SIG in 2026. This is officially our last stream of 2025. So thank you to all who joined.
We'll see you next year.
Yes, thank you to our host too, Adriana.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Adriana. Thank you, Reese. This is great.
Thank you.
And thank you, people, for watching.
Yeah,
thank you for watching.
And thank you for using